We have a mayor-elect, Jerry Dyer, and there's also an official winner in the race for Fresno City Council District 4. Tyler Maxwell will take over the seat after opponent Nathan Alonzo conceded the race. That seat currently held by Paul Capriolio, who is terming out. The one thing that wasn't canceled this week, the latest poll numbers yet released. So Jerry Dyer is the next mayor, and Tyler Maxwell wins District 4. Let's welcome back our panel, Jim Veros, Diane Pierce, and Humberto Gomez Jr. All right, let's recap really the mayor's race here. We see how the numbers really fell. Jerry Dyer just right under that 52% threshold. Jim, surprised at all that it ended in the primary? Because I think Andrew was really hoping Jerry wouldn't get over that threshold.
Yeah, polling data had been saying that he was right around 52 or 53%. Well, we didn't know what turnout was going to be with the younger voters. And like you talked about with Andrew, millennials, once again, did not show up to vote. So unless he would have gotten the youth vote turn up, it was going to be 52 or 53%. So
Humberto, I know name ID is huge in local races. I get it, but did Fresno get it right?
Well, the results are in.
Yeah.
So whether we like it or not, Jerry Dyer's our next mayor. And like I said, congratulations to him, and I wish him the best. And also, you know, in terms of that, it was always going to be a hard run for Andrew because Jerry had served the city for, 18 years as a police chief, 40 years in total. So in terms of name ID, in terms of recognition, Jerry was definitely a difficult opponent. And that's why they ran Jerry and they didn't run Brand.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I just think that you know, some folks looked at the polling and everything and figured out that, you know what, we want to keep our mayor in the hands of, you know, the Republican side, and guess what? They got the biggest guy.
So you think this was more about party than it is about what's
party,
good for the city?
And also, I just think, you know, I think hopefully Jerry, there's been some, you know, there's been some issues in terms of folks that feel south of Shaw, always hear that, south of Shaw, that feel neglected. And that specifically with the parks, with Measure P, things like that. I think Jerry has, you know, definitely can build a coalition. He has a lot of folks that do love him to death. But also, I'm hoping that he has those conversations.
Diane, you're listening to Humberto. What's your take on this?
Well, no, I think one thing is true. Yeah. That was not the race that Andrew Jan signed on for, you know, and there was polling, and the personalities between Lee Brand and Jerry Dyer, very different.
So wait, let's recap. Okay, we got to go back because what you guys are saying is right. And when Andrew Jans announced on this show that he's going to run for mayor, Mayor Brand, at the time, announced on this show he was going to run for re-election, and then a week later, he dropped out of the race. So it wasn't the race that Andrew Jan signed up for.
And so it did turn into a more difficult race. But when I'm saying about the personalities is, Mayor Brand is that numbers guy. That's what everybody calls him. It's very true. And it doesn't necessarily translate that well into a mayoral capacity and an administrator. And I think that there were some questions there. I think he did a great job. I'm not, you know, criticizing or even questioning his ability as mayor, but I think when you're approaching a re-election cycle, there's other questions that come into play, and the personality of Chief Dyer, now Mayor Dyer, is a very different thing, and it brought an entirely different dynamic to the campaign.
You know, now it's the concept of, you know, Jerry Dyer says, I got to go to those neighborhoods and reach out to everybody now that didn't vote for me and say, look, you know, I'm going to unite this city. He knows that he's going to talk to city council members. The newest one he's got to talk to is Tyler Maxwell, one guy that he didn't endorse. And now, as Gary Bredefeld pointed out last week on this show, he seems to think it's 6 against 1 when it comes to party politics on the dais. Will it turn into that, you think, Jim Veros?
The one thing that Jerry has in his favor is that he has time, because he won in the primary. He has 8 months to sit down with council on a regular basis and say, what do I have to do? Listen, they're not going to get along all the time, but if there was a checklist item of 5 items, 10 items, and said, okay, what can we knock out in my first 100 days, in the first year? What is the most important thing to you? And that's to the other council member. Mayor-elect Dyer has to engage on that. Will it work? it's going to be tough, but I think that he's got time on his hands. And listen, you got COVID-19, you've got another Measure P coming down the pipeline. Like, you've got stuff to talk about that doesn't have to be so political. He can, if he really wants it, he can go out there and work on it.
Really, the homeless money and how that's going to be distributed, we still don't know exactly how last year's money of the $6+ million and how it's going to work and how it's going to operate. They have a couple of months, and I know Mayor Brand is really, that's on his shoulders at this point. But, you know, you were part of Tyler Maxwell's campaign, true?
True.
So you saw Maxwell squeak this one out. How do you think that dynamic will now work with the dais and now Mayor-elect Jerry Dyer?
Well, I mean, just like Jim said, I mean, I'll be honest that, you know, Mayor-elect Dyer has an opportunity to have those conversations. I know there's some differences between how the homeless shelters, what Council President Arias wants and what you know, Mayor-elect Dyer wants. In terms of with the COVID-19, I don't think having that big old, you know, 300-bed unit that...
You don't like the idea of a navigation center?
No, the navigation center would probably be too much people right now, specifically when you have a public health situation. But, you know, there's an opportunity there. I think Tyler, he's the type of person also that's very open. I mean, he got endorsed by Mayor Autry, you know, so yes.
Diana, I'll let you finish this off because we've seen Miguel Arias been one of Jerry Dyer's biggest critics, even as police chief. He's council president. This could be contentious at times.
No, and I think while it is incumbent upon Mayor-elect Dyer to communicate with the council members, there has to be a two-way street there. And I think one of the things that really stifled Mayor Brand in the last half of his administration here was that tension with the council, because all of a sudden he's trying to talk about, you know, road repairs and divvying up road funds, and you have council members who are going after office space for from the mayor's office for their interns. And it kind of broke down that way. And so I think the council is going to have to get their act together and be able to come to the table honestly.
Barros, I know you're shaking your head, but I got a wrap, buddy.
Yeah.
I got a wrap.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to share our thoughts.
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle.
Thank you guys for coming in.
All right.
Well, changes are coming to Valley universities due to the coronavirus issue. Why students won't be heading to class this week as educators prepare a different way to teach.